Hello there. My name is Travis, and welcome to the tavern. It is about 55, maybe 52 degrees in my room right now. It is about 5 in the morning, so that's awesome. And Hearthstone is going to turn 12 next year in March, so that's really cool. With that is going to arrive the 36th expansion in Hearthstone's history. This means new cards, new keywords, and new mechanics, and most importantly, a new standard rotation. The year of whatever animal Blizzard thinks is really cool this year. Today, I wanted to talk about Hearthstone standard set for the year, the core set, which has generally stayed the same for the last few years, but with a few key changes. For instance, each class had one legendary in the standard set, and then Blizzard decided to make each class a little bit more interesting and added the core set in the year of the Hydra. This introduced a huge change as it changed how the game was played significantly, especially for free to play players. Now, each class has two legendaries, each in the core set right now. And with the standard rotation coming in 2026, I wanted to look at how Blizzard could change the legendaries in the core set to make the game feel a little bit more new and alive. To make this video a little more interesting, I paid homage to our AI overlords and I asked ChatGPT for the rest of this video. I will be calling Reggie. What each thinks should be the class and neutral legendaries. And afterwards, I'll throw in what I think the core legendaries should be and tell you why I think they are objectively the best choices to revive this dead card game. Now, I'll be going over the neutral legendaries in a different video, just because the class legendaries are going to take long enough. But I do want to say that, I want to go over everything. So, but I don't really think this is a dead card game, honestly. Despite my hatred for the StarCraft mini set, really didn't like that very much. My disappointment at any new dungeon likes as well. I'd love to see some more dungeon runs. Seriously, Blizzard, just update the dungeon run once a year for the current standard set and maybe add some new treasures, bosses, and this game would see a massive spike in players. You don't even have to release a new whole solo adventure. Just like update the dungeon run. That's all you have to do. But I really think that Hearthstone has been at the most accessible and balanced state it has ever been in. There are tons of archetypes that are viable right now, and each class has at least one good deck in this meta. So I encourage you to start playing again if you haven't played in a while. And with the new expansion release coming in a few months, there'll be an excellent time to start if you've never played before. And of course, I'd love to hear the community thoughts on what the current meta is like right now and what you think the new core set should be for the big 2026. Now, without further ado, let's begin with everyone's favorite hero, the Death Knight. Real quick, out of Trob hopping in here, I just wanted to mention that there's not really any rules for this video. I just wanted to maintain a healthy, balanced, and most of all, fun format. So with that said, any legendary is on the field to be selected for this core set here. Now, right off the bat, Death Knight is kind of an exception because of the rune system. In the current core set, it gets 4 legendaries, 1 per each rune that it has, and then a neutral, kind of like no rune legendary. But Reggie went ahead and picked just 3. Didn't really abide by that. First off, we've got the Primus, then Patchwork, and then Alexandros Mograine. The Primus is kind of a cool pick here, just because he kind of does all the runes, and he's a really cool, interesting control tool. Obviously, he can be removed really easily with single target removal. And then Patchwork can be really annoying to play against, especially if, he gets generated somehow, or he gets bounced, or his battle cry gets duplicated. But then Alexander's Mograine just kind of feels like a really good, control finisher, especially for 3 blood. You're kind of locked into the full blood play. And also, it has nothing to do with me having the signature for this card. I think it's just a really good card. Nothing to do with me having the signature at all. But so, anyways, for my picks, I'm going to go with Alexander's Mograine here again for no reason. Just kind of the reasons that I picked above. The Scourge is the next card I want to pick, just because I think the Scourge is just this really cool way to play Unholy. This really cool finisher for Unholy, because Unholy's always kind of been more aggro, mid-rangey, and especially if you can kind of generate the Scourge or duplicate it. It's just really fun way to kind of just fill the board. And then Thessarian kind of just embodies that inevitability of mid-range Frost. That I feel like Frost has just kind of been a mid-rangey archetype for Death Knight. So I think Thessarian embodies that more, or at least a little bit better than most of the Frost pure legendaries that we have right now. And then finally for no rune, I gotta pick the Frostmourne. I feel like maybe it could use a buff just because it really has not seen that much play recently. But Frostmourne's iconic. I gotta keep it. And then oh wait, what's that? Surprise! Climactic necrotic explosion. That's right. I just think this card is like super cool. It's a really cool way to show off, especially to new players, which I think the core set is very important to show new players things. The idea that Death Knight really works around the corpse mechanic. Like that's their key mechanic. It doesn't belong to anybody else, just Death Knight. And so it operates a really cool way to use the corpse mechanic. And it also shows that you don't have to fully commit to one of the rune types. It's obviously a rainbow card. You have to commit to just one of every rune, which is I think is a really cool way to show new players just kind of what Death Knight is capable of. So that's my final pick for Death Knight there. Next, we got Demon Hunter, everybody's favorite. The class that Blizzard has made sure to kind of keep just perfectly balanced as much as possible. I know Death Knight has seen some lower win rates at times. Now, who am I kidding? Demon Hunter has always kind of been just dominating the meta ever since it's been introduced. I don't think there's been a single meta in which Demon Hunter had a bad deck, or I should say the Demon Hunter didn't have a good deck. And so, of course, Reggie's going to go ahead and replicate that. We're keeping Kane Sun Fury here. And then, interestingly enough, we're going to add Jace Darkweaver. And then finally, again, Demon Hunter gets Hero, Kurtrus, Demon Render. Kane, I just really don't like here. I know it hasn't seen really that much play recently with the current Demon Hunter archetypes, but I just really don't like just ignoring like the most key mechanic in Hearthstone, which is taunt. I'm just not a huge fan of that. But Jace Darkweaver, on the other hand, I think is actually a really cool kind of like Yogg-like effect. And then again, Kurtrus Hero's not a big fan of doing that if not everybody has a hero. So for my picks, I'm going to keep Jace here. Jace is actually a really cool effect. I feel like as long as we don't get a like you're dead by turn 10 combo deck with Demon Hunter, I think Jace is all right. So I kind of want to keep Jace in the core set here. Next, Soul Eater's Scythe, I think, is such a cool way to help deck build for No Minion Demon Hunter. I'm not really sure where the idea for No Minion Demon Hunter came from, but it is an archetype, and I think it is a really cool deck building challenge. And Soul Eater Scythe just adds a really cool layer of complexity to that deck building challenge, where you can have minions in your deck, but you only get to choose 3 of them, and you have to pay that 1 mana cost to have access to them. So I really like Soul Eater Scythe. I would love to see it come back in the core set. And then finally, for reasons I'll talk about in the next video when I talk about the neutral set, I'm going to put Gunslinger Kurtrus in here. I think maybe I would like to see more of a rework of him affecting the battlefield more than the player's hand. But honestly, I'm fine with it being in the hand. The only way that we really have to affect combo decks right now in Standard is Dirty Rat. That's kind of it. And Gunslinger Kurtrus affords at least Demon Hunter a way to affect combo decks in an interesting way. Obviously not a perfect way. There's a lot of times where he's going to miss the combo entirely, but I do think it is a really cool tool that Demon Hunter has. So I'd be fine with him affecting the hand as well. All right, moving on. Druid, turn 1 Flappy Bird, baby. That's right. All right, so first off, Reggie's going to choose here Fandral Staghelm, Elise Starseeker, which is a neutral legendary, and then Goru the Might Tree. Fandral Staghelm is kind of always been around. Um, he's kind of an interesting card. He has a really cool effect, and I love seeing the combined arts of the choose one effects being combined. I think it's a really cool thing. I always thought that was really neat since I saw it for the first time. But he is kind of a little bit slow. I really just don't see him see that much play. Elise Starseeker is a neutral legendary, so I'm not really sure why Reggie chose her to be a part of the core set for a class. It's a little bit odd. And then Gore the Might Tree just kind of seems underwhelming. Like, yeah, he's a 5/10 with taunt for 7 mana, and he has the 1/1 perma buff, but it's specifically for treants, and to get a 1/1 perma buff just for treants at 7 mana just really feels underwhelming. I don't think this card saw much play when it was in standard, and I don't think it would see any play now unless there was like an insane amount of treant support. So I'm going to say a no for me. For me, I'm going to actually upgrade Staghelm here to Keeper Stelandris. I think Stelandris is just kind of a better version of Staghelm. Gives you a lot more value. He's half the cost. So he's a lot easier to slot into really any deck, more aggro decks that use choose one tools, control decks that use choose one tools. I think Stelandris is just kind of an auto include in anything that uses really powerful choose one cards. So I think Stelandris is just really a good option for core set free to play players. And then next, I'm going to switch the Elise that we're using here, Elise the Enlightened. I think Elise the Enlightened has a really cool effect, which is duplicating what's in your hand. That has always really been a strong effect in Standard whenever it's been around, specifically because it allows you to get extra copies of legendary cards that you would usually only get one play per game. And having 2 of those can really, really up your power level. It adds a lot of really interesting interactions in the game, and I just really like that. And then finally, we're gonna go with the recent Blizzard W, Sky Mother Aviana. This card is just awesome. It is that classic Hearthstone randomness that you love to see. Uh, it's just such a cool card. I mean, it's got that deck that Tice recently highlighted that has been all over ladder recently just because it's so fun to play. This card is like an auto include for me in any Druid deck that I play, and I really don't think it's a bad thing because it's just a fun card. It's not like an overwhelmingly high win rate in any deck that it's played in. It just has some really cool, just classic Hearthstone randomness, and I love it. All right. Next, we're going face, baby. We're smorking. First off, we've got Houndmaster Shaw here. Then we've got Katrina Winterwisp and Professor Putricide. So the Smork class did not really get that much Smork. Houndmaster Shaw, I don't think has ever seen that much play. Maybe it's had its niches here and there, but I don't recall it being that powerful ever. Katrina Winterwisp has definitely seen some play here and there. It's definitely a big beast archetype tool, but like I don't know how I feel about it. And then Professor Putricide, Secret Hunter has not really been an archetype for a while. I don't think Hunter even really plays any secrets right now unless they're generated. But it would kind of be cool to see Secret Hunter see a return. But then again, secrets are really kind of annoying to deal with, so I don't know. But for my choices, I'm going to go back to Smork. We got King Crush, baby. The King. Kloon, Klurug, Flurglurg. I don't know where I got this picture from, to be honest. But that's King Crush. He's got charge. Trust me. Next, I really want to see Exarch Niall stay in the standard format. The hero power of any given class is kind of key to identifying what that class does. And for Hunter, it's very obvious. Hunter goes face. But with Exarch Niall, you get this really cool ability to kind of change what your deck can do. So with Hunter, previously, it's kind of like Hunter goes face, and if you're not going face, you're just not making as much value out of what Hunter can do because you're losing that 2 mana, do 2 damage to that guy's face every single turn. So I just think Exarch Niall is a really cool tool, and I would love to see Discover Hunter kind of stay in the standard format through the core set with her. And then finally, I'm going to keep Hemet, Foam Marksman. He's just a really cool, fun thing. Like he gives me Sky Mother Aviana vibes again. I don't recall if he's ever really been that powerful, but he does kind of fit with the Time Ways archetype as well, where he's giving you things from the past. So I just kind of think he fits the vibes all around. He's a fun card, so I'd love to see him stay in. Next, the Blaster Master. We got Mage, baby, unnerf Jaina. All right, first off, we got Astromancer Solarian. This card has had definitely its spot of controversy. It's just kind of like a really good version of Yogg. You're always going to get 5 random mage spells. They're always going to be mage spells. They're always going to be targeted at a random enemy target, so you know you're getting a good trade out of that. And you get the +1 spell damage. Like it's really strong. So it's definitely had some controversy. This might be just like too strong to be a core set card. Next, we're going to have Kaligos, which has been a staple of Mage for a while. Dragon Mage, when it has existed. Big Spell Mage is obviously a staple in. And then finally, we got another hero card, Magister Dawn Grasp. Dawn Grasp is a really cool hero card. You have a lot of control over what the battle cry does, which is really cool. That hero power is also a really cool finisher if you can line it up well. But again, it's a hero card. I don't want to give hero cards to just a couple classes unless every class is a hero card. So for me, baby, we're going to Vegas. That's right. Stopping by Gadgets, and on the way, we're getting Deck of Lunacy. You're getting Grand Magister Rama, then you're getting Kaligos, baby. Casino Mage all the way. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right. Next up, my favorite. That's right. It's Pally. I don't know what happened here. I think just because, like, I'll be honest with you, I have about double the amount of wins that I have with Paladin that I have with my second most won class in Hearthstone. I play this class a lot. I know. I think maybe because of that, the AI just kind of like linked up brainwaves with me and its LLM technology or whatever. And it chose the exact cards that I was thinking of. Like honestly, Tyrion Fordring, we got Lady Liadrin, and we got Lanessa Sunsarrow. Tyrion is just obviously kind of a classic. It's been a classic for a while. He got the buff from being an 8 mana 8 or 8 mana 6/6 as I was to an 8 mana 8/8, which is really cool. And then obviously the Ashbringer is just an iconic weapon. Lady Liadrin and then Lanessa Sunsarrow just create just such this cool combo of an identity that I feel like Paladin is kind of lost. Like auras have kind of more taken over the identity of what Paladin is known for. Whereas it used to be Paladin was known for you play dudes and then you buff them up with your spells to become really big, really cool dudes that did really cool stuff. So Lady Liadrin and Lanessa Sunsarrow just encapsulate this idea so well in my mind. Like Lanessa Sunsarrow was just this really cool finisher of just, you've cast all these spells this game that have created this, like, some really cool minions across the game. And then finally you got, boom, this big minion that drops down. That's got all of those spells on it as one final finisher. I just think she's really cool. So these are my 3 picks for Paladin. Next, we got the vortex between shadow and light, the Dr. Hyde and Mr. Jekyll of Hearthstone and Warcraft. We got Priest. So Reggie's going to choose here Lyra the Sunshard, Murzon the Infinite, and then Zarella the Devout. So Lyra's a really cool card. Obviously seen a lot of play, and she's got that classic like Hearthstone randomness that I love. Murzon, on the other hand, is just like kind of never really seen play. Maybe like in a few control decks, but like it's so rare that your opponent is going to play cards that you want to play, and then spending 8 mana for that. Like, there's so many other better plays that you can make with Priest that I don't think this card would see any play, even if it was a free to play core legendary. And then Zerla Devout, again, a hero card. And even then, it's a really strong hero card. And especially right now in the standard format, we already have a card that can replicate the death rattles that have gone off during a game, and it's a neutral card. So Priest could essentially double every single death rattle that's gone off for the game. And that is incredibly strong. I don't think we need that in the game right now. That would be stupid. So instead, I'm going to keep Lyra here just because, like I said, I think it's just a really cool example of some classic Hearthstone randomness. Next, to incorporate that shadow motif, I'm going to go Katrina Muerte. Lyra kind of embodies holy, not exactly. She's got like a holy theme to her, but she isn't exactly like you can play shadow spells with Lyra. Same thing with Katrina Muerte. Like, you don't have to play shadow spells with her, but she kind of more incorporates that shadow side. The resurrect motif has always kind of been more shadowy. Shadow priest has typically been more aggro, but it also kind of leans more control at times as well. And I think Katrina Muerte just kind of represents a good embodiment of that. And then finally, for a more neutral of both sides of the shadow and light of priest, we've got Chameleos. Chameleos is a really cool tool in priest. I guess technically it kind of leans more shadow because shadow is typically what's copying cards from your opponent. But that isn't an archetype that Priest is known for, copying cards directly from what your opponent has, either in hand or in deck. And Chameleons is a really cool way of not just getting the tools that your opponent has, but also seeing what your opponent has in their hand during any given turn. I think it allows for a lot better, higher level play. Maybe Chameleos is just like really broken for a lot of people, and you don't agree with that, but I think Chameleos would be a really cool tool to see back in the standard format. So I'm going to choose Chameleos for my third core set. Next, we got Rogue, baby. All right. Hey, I'm going to be honest, I think Reggie cooked a little bit with this one. We're bringing back the OG Edwin Van Cleef. We're keeping Test Greymane in the format, and then the one where I think we probably dropped the frying pan on the floor and all the food got all over the kitchen floor. High Spirit Togwaggle. I'm not really sure what Reggie was thinking here. Lackeys were an interesting mechanic when they were around, but I don't think they would be able to exist in a current standard format. Especially with like the way that he's implemented them here. Like, is Rogue the only one that gets lackeys? Are there lackeys that are like the neutral cards that give you lackeys that any class can get? Are we letting other classes have lackeys? So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of him here, but like Edward Van Cleef, the classic turn 1 12/12 Test Greymane just embodies that thief motif that is just one of the things that I love the most about a Hearthstone. I love playing Thief Rogue every once in a while. It's just good fun. So here I'm going to keep Edwin. I'm going to keep Test Greymane, and then finally I'm going to add Kingsbane here. I think Kingsbane just like Rogue hasn't really seen that much weapon support. Like they've gotten weapon support cards, but they haven't had the weapons to support those weapon support cards, if that makes sense. So I think Kingsbane is just like the embodiment of weapon Rogue. Rogue is really the class that embodies weapons better than any other class, I feel like, just because of how they can manipulate them or have manipulated them in the past. So I'd love to see some of those tools come back. I love to see Kingsbane come back. It may be like an inevitable thing. Like there's no way to really silence Kingsbane, but I don't know. I just think it's a really cool tool. So, all right, totem time, baby. We got Shaman. So we're gonna have first off the lurker below here. Then again, we got another Alterac hero. They've all been Alterac heroes, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. Brucon of the Elements, and then we're gonna have Shutterwalk. Lurker below is kind of to me, just like an underwhelming like control tool. Also, like I just don't think the lurker below really embodies the shaman motifs all that well. And then Brucon of the Elements, again, it's a hero card, and I just really don't want to use hero cards here unless everyone's going to get one of their hero cards. But Shutterwalk has been an iconic piece of Hearthstone history. So many good clips that come off Shutterwalk. I know it's been an incredibly polarizing card in the past, but I love Shutterwalk. I think it'd be really cool. You'd obviously have to design kind of that standard set for the year around Shutterwalk being in play, so that it doesn't have any like crazy combos or like actual legitimate game breaking combos. But I think Shutterwalk's really cool. So I'm going to keep Shutterwalk here. I'm going to add Calamos, the Primal Lord, and I'm going to add Instructor Fireheart. Calamos is a card that I think embodies the idea that Shaman plays with elementals really well. It's a really cool finisher. It's a really cool, just like late game card that just does like anything you need it to. You're missing health, you need health to kind of buff up a little bit. He's got you there. You want like one final big board to push on, like you get some support cards for a big board. You can summon that big board. You need a board clear, you can board clear. You need just like a burst to his face. You got burst to his face. He's just a really cool, well-rounded card, and I would love to see Calamos back, especially as an idea of like, hey, Shaman does elementals, like go full in on the elemental build. And then lastly, we're gonna have Instructor Fireheart here. Fireheart's really cool. Like she gives you a way to get out of like some sticky situations if you need to play her quick. And then if you can save her up, you can go all the way to Trumpville and just get all the value that you need. So I think these cards just embody what Shaman like has the best. All right. Next, we're going for Warlock. I never really understood Warlock as a class, especially because since Blizzard went down the WoW route, they've kind of like tunneled characters or players, I guess I should say, into being the good guys. And I think every Warcraft like famous Warlock has been like infamously evil. But they are really fun to play in Hearthstone, so I'm not really complaining. And Reggie has picked here for the first one Lord Jaraxxus. We got Can Rithad Ebonlock and Rin the First Disciple. First off, old Jax, he's the only one I'm going to let slide with this hero power nonsense. He was the OG hero card before hero cards even existed. And I think he's just like a really fun way to play Warlock, cap off aggro decks, just change up the flow of the game. Like there's just a ton of pressure now because the Warlock has played Lord Jax. Obviously, I don't think he's seen like a ton of play recently in Hearthstone, but he's a classic. I got to keep him there. And then Can Rithad, he's kind of odd. He kind of plays both sides of more zoo and more control Warlock. I don't remember Ashes of Outland that much, so I don't remember if he was like more busted, washed, or balanced. But I don't know. I don't really like seeing him here, and I'm not a huge fan of the prime cards being in the core set. But maybe that's just me. And then we're gonna have Rin the Disciple here from Reggie. Rin's an interesting pick for sure, but I think she's just a little bit too slow. Like she doesn't really synergize too much with the rest of what Warlock's doing outside of drawing cards. Um, and yeah, I just like by the time you get to essentially the completion of her quest, which is the 10-10 that destroys the opponent's deck, like the opponent has either probably already killed you or burned through most of their deck already. So I'm not convinced that it's a great ad here for the core set. So I'm going to pick obviously good old Lord Jax. I'm going to keep him. And then we're going to put Skull Minari back in. Big Demons has been an archetype that kind of got stolen from Warlock by Demon Hunter. So it'd be cool to see Big Demons get a lot more support for Warlock again. The classic hand lock, throw down, Mountain Giant on turn 3. Get some big demons on the board with Skull of Minari. I just think that'd be a really cool, fun archetype to see again. And then finally, I'm going to put Clutch Mother Zavis in here. Disco Lock, again, has not been a deck that has really seen that much play, to my knowledge, recently. And of course, Zavis is something that you can always discard and it will always come back and it will be stronger. So I think she's one of the best Disco Lock support cards out there. And I would love to see some more Disco Lock stuff come back. So next, we're going to have Armor Man. Reggie is choosing for the big warrior. Grom, Kargath Blade Fist, and Rokara the Valorous. This means that essentially ChatGPT has flipped a coin on who got their Alterac hero card and who didn't get a hero card at all. It's about 50-50. But of course, Grom is just a classic. He's been in Hearthstone for, I think, the entirety of the game's existence in the standard format, and I don't want to see him leave. He's a cool card. He's got a really cool lore, so love to keep him there. Kargath Blade Fist. Again, not really huge on the prime cards. He is really strong, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I'm just not really feeling him for the core set. And then Rokar the Valorous, again, hero card. She does have some really cool utility with her hero card, and it would be cool to see her back in the standard format. But I'm not huge on having the heroes in the core set. Maybe if everybody got a hero, but again, not everybody did, so I'm just not going with it. So for me, I'm gonna keep Grom in. We love Grom in this household, and then finally, all right, I'm gonna put my bid in here. BM Kibler, one of the all-time Hearthstone greats. I used to watch this guy back in high school. The classic Frozen Throne Ungoro clips that got like millions of views. Loved seeing his clips and watching him play. Great Hearthstone commentator. Just all time like fun guy to watch play Hearthstone. Uh, this is my bid to get him back. We're putting Rotface back in the core set. That's right. The triple Rotface game is coming in 2026. Watch for Kibler's VODs to drop. It'll be there. I promise you. That is if Blizzard accepts Rotface into the core set, which I don't think they will, but that's my pipe dream. So we're gonna put Rotface in there. And then finally, I'm gonna put Darius Crowley in. I feel like Crowley's just kind of a really good mid-game control tool. He's just like not just control. I feel like he just slots in really well into a lot of decks. Really good stat line for a 5-mana rush card, and he just gets stronger every time he attacks. So this has nothing to do with the fact that I drew Darius Crowley when I was like in my senior year of high school. Nothing to do with it at all. It was a really good drawing. It's like one of the only times that I've actually drawn well, but that has nothing to do with it. I promise you, there's no bias here. Just Darius Crowley being really good. But with that being said, that's going to wrap up for this video of the 2026 core set wishes, I guess. Hopefully it was a fun way to look at the future of the game, and I'm really excited to see what 2026 is going to hold for the future of my favorite little children's card game. I've got dreams of, Ben Brode opening the next year announcement video saying, "Guess who's back, baby?" But we all know that's a pipe dream. Rest in peace, Ben Brode. But if I can get to it, I'll talk about what the neutral legendary should be, at least in my mind. We'll talk about what ChatGPT said they should be as well, of course. But yeah, I'd love to see what you guys think the core legendary should be for this year coming up, 2026. And then, if you've got some ideas for the neutral set as well, just some ideas about the meta overall, I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. And yeah, I'll see you next time.